Hello, good evening, and welcome to our public meeting. We're going to give it just a minute or two so more people can join us, and then we'll get started. And while we are waiting for people to come in, for those of you already tuned in, we will have our Q&A chat room open for questions and comments during the meeting. And we'll have time throughout the meeting to take those questions and answer them for you. Give it another minute or so. Okay, I think we are going to get started here. And then, of course, if this is going to be recorded, so we can make sure people still have access to the beginning of this meeting. But welcome. I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Brandy. I'm your meeting host tonight. And I get to kick us off here and introduce the team who will be presenting this evening, which I will say is a short list. We have about a 15-minute presentation, at which time I will pause for questions that can be typed in the chat, which our panelists can see. And then I will either ask your question out loud, or we may also be responding to your question in the chat. But either way, all questions and comments will be recorded as input into this public engagement process. We will then talk a bit more about this public engagement process and demonstrate the survey tool that we're launching tonight so that you can provide your input in various ways. I also, again, want to let everyone know this meeting is being recorded and it will be posted to the city's website. Before I review tonight's agenda, I'd like to introduce Steve Chan, who is the Interim Engineering Director and the City Engineer for Milpitas, who will set the stage for this important traffic and safety study. Steve, take it away.
Thank you, Brandy. Again, my name is Steve Chan, Interim City Engineer for the City of Milpitas. Transportation-related matters, including traffic safety, have been identified as one of the top 10 priorities for Milpitas residents. A strategy to improve traffic safety is typically called the 3 E's. This three-legged stool concept is to convey the idea that all 3 elements are needed to provide stable support. In no particular order, these 3 key areas of the 3 E's are engineering, enforcement, and education. Engineering includes roadway improvements to encourage users to exercise caution and follow the rules of the road. Enforcement refers to the traffic enforcement of the roadways so that traffic laws are followed and users comply with the traffic control devices on the roadway. And lastly, public education is to encourage the public and let everyone know they have a shared responsibility and contribute an important part to traffic safety. Tonight's public meeting is part of the citywide traffic safety study project, which the City Council approved as part of the capital improvement program. This project will focus on the engineering portion of the 3 E's of traffic safety. Back to you, Brandy.
Thank you, Steve. And we are so happy to be supporting that third E, which is very much focused on education tonight. And we're hoping to do that with our community partners. So tonight we are going to provide a quick overview to the Milpitas Traffic Safety Project. We'll present the crash data collected to date and the safety analysis that resulted from that data pool. And then we'll get into how the public can engage on the study. We'll then close it out with another round of questions from the audience and share what to expect as far as next steps. So with that, I'd like to introduce Robert Perderna, our project manager for this study. Welcome, Robert.
All right, thank you, Brandy.
Yep.
All right, so first off, the goal of this project, as Steve mentioned, is to identify traffic safety strategies based on review of crash history, our analysis, and input from city staff, stakeholders, and the community. As part of our analysis, we've identified high crash concentration locations throughout the city, crash trends, and are soliciting input in conjunction with the development of safety improvement recommendations. We're also utilizing the data that we've collected to identify priority locations and emphasis areas for further evaluation and consideration. Public feedback plays a vital role in the safety project and will help us have a better understanding of safety challenges on the city's roadway network. And then the end product will be a citywide travel safety plan, which will present the data analysis, identifies priority locations, presents proven safety countermeasures that the city can utilize as a toolbox for engineering improvements geared towards reducing crash frequency and severity. And last but not least, providing an implementation strategy that'll aid the city in seeking grant funding opportunities to implement these safety improvement projects, and also consideration for incorporating improvements in the city's capital improvement program. Just to provide a brief overview of the crash data, we've collected and evaluated 5 years worth of crash data dating back to 2017. So January 2017 through the end of 2021 were obtained from collision reports. I do want to note that 2022 data was not yet finalized. It typically takes 6 months or even more to close the books on the collision reports for the previous year, and that's why it's not included in this particular data set. Crash data was obtained from the statewide integrated traffic records system, also called SWITRS, and that utilizes or pulls data from the California Highway Patrol and local law enforcement agencies. I'll refer to crash data and severity levels in particular, and we follow the CAPCO scale, which is the National Safety Council's crash severity scale, and including fatal injuries, severe, other visible injuries, and complaint of pain. And with that, on this slide, I wanted to note that there were 928 reported crashes from 2017 to the end of 2021. 5 of those crashes resulted in fatality, and that amounts to 1% of the data set. 5% or 45 of the 928 resulted in severe injuries. 35% resulted in minor injuries or other visible injury, and just under 60% of the total crashes resulted in complaint of pain. This data set does exclude property damage only crashes and unreported crashes. The next slide presents a bar graph or figure presenting the total crashes by year over the 5-year data set or data evaluation period. As you can see, the crashes trended downward over the 5-year evaluation period from 2017 down to 2021. The 2020 year, which is the low point, was partly attributed to the reduction in vehicular travel over the pandemic. But again, over the 5-year period, the trend has been downward. On the next slide, this shows a citywide map of all the crashes, regardless of severity level, throughout the city. And this is shown in a heat map format with yellow representative of sparse, and the darker red where there's a higher concentration of crashes. And as you see, the crashes are largely clustered along the primary arterial intersections throughout the city. So Calaveras Boulevard, Montague Expressway, Dixon Landing, and Great Mill Parkway. These are the primary commute routes in the city. And as I'll mention on a later slide, there is a correlation with aggressive driving behavior that we saw based on the analysis of the collision reports. All right, this is a similar map, but focusing on the fatal and severe injury crashes. So we wanted to pay particular attention to these crashes because part of the safety initiative is not only reducing the total number of crashes, but also reducing the severity of crashes. So again, this map shows the fatal and severe crashes throughout the city. Again, the higher concentration of crashes are occurring, or have occurred, I should say, at intersections, primarily along the commute corridors. I do want to note that the primary collision factor, or the primary collision violation for the fatal and severe injury crashes were largely behavioral. And to that point, 24% were involving drivers under the influence, 18% were related to unsafe speeds, and another 12% were traffic signal and stop sign violations. The top intersection, I should say, experienced 4 fatal and severe injury crashes, and that happened to be Calaveras Boulevard at Sarah Way. All right. On this slide, this shows a pie chart with the breakdown of crashes by type, just to provide us with a better understanding, more comprehensive understanding of the crash trends and what are the primary causes. The top 3 crash types are broadsides, amounting to 31% or 292 total crashes. So broadsides are often referred to as T-bone crashes. The second is rear end crashes. So a quarter of the crashes, or 25%, were rear enders, which are primarily occurring at traffic signals. And just shy of 10%, 85 or 9% were hit object crashes. I do want to mention that we did have an opportunity to review countywide data from the VTA-led countywide LRSP, Local Road Safety Plan, and as a whole, as county as a whole, had the same top 2 crash types, broadsides and rear ends being atop the list. This slide provides a similar breakdown of crashes by cause. And the top 3 include unsafe speed, as you see there at 24% were attributable to unsafe speeds, auto right-of-way violations at 14%, and traffic signal and sign violations at 13%. So we'll work with the city to identify appropriate safety countermeasures and engineering or infrastructure interventions. But a lot of these are largely caused by behavioral. So as Steve mentioned, the 3-legged stool, we're focusing on engineering, but we're certainly acknowledging the important role that education and enforcement plays in the overarching, goal for providing safer streets for the city. The city will continue to work with enforcement and the PD and members of the education community to work on improving safety with these emphasis areas identified. Similar to what I mentioned on the last slide, Santa Clara County as a whole has the same top 2 crash causes, being unsafe speed and auto right-of-way violations. So again, these are not unique to the city of Milpitas. All right, on this slide, this is another map focusing on the bike and pedestrian crashes. So it's important to take a deeper look into our vulnerable users, being the bicyclists and pedestrians traversing the road network. These locations, as you see with the heat map there, are largely consistent again with locations where the total crashes are occurring. again, primarily occurring along the arterial commute corridors, including Calaveras, Great Mall, Montague Expressway, and other roadways as shown on the map. All right, on the next slide here, this is going back to what I mentioned earlier about the aggressive driving crashes and where they're occurring. This map presents locations, intersections, and roadways along the road network where aggressive driving was identified in the collision reports that we've collected. And the crashes are largely occurring on the major arterials, the same Calaveras, Great Mall, and Montague primarily. And as Brandy and Kristen will speak to in a moment, we're seeking your input on specific locations with your safety concerns, including one of which is perhaps where you're observing aggressive driving behavior. So with that, I will turn it over to Brandy.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Robert. We actually do have a couple of questions, and we're gonna ask these live. How do you define aggressive driving? In that last slide, what would you say the definition of that is?
Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aggressive driving is a combination of rear ends. Let me pull up the. If you go to the slide 11, yeah, rear ends, unsafe speeds, unsafe lane changes, all include or all encompass
That's all in that bucket.
yeah.
Aggressive driving bucket.
Aggressive driving, yeah.
Very good.
And it is a data point that's in the collision reports, and it is recorded. It's a really difficult, just from speaking with officers, it's difficult to assess that, post incident, but they are able to gather information to categorize whether or not there's reason to believe that aggressive driving behavior was attributable to the collision.
Very good, thank you. And we also did get another question about the percentages of pedestrian and bicycle crashes that were fatal or severe. And I think we're answering that in the chat, but it looks like we had 18% of ped crashes are fatal / severe. 2% of bike crashes were fatal / severe. So that is the data that we have so far.
Correct.
Thank you for good and important questions. And we're going to be here for a little while longer in our next segment. Please keep these questions, really good questions, coming. We appreciate them. And we'll go into our next phase here, the public engagement part, which is something that we're obviously here tonight to do. And we wanted to first thank you for being engaged and being here. And we're also very much looking forward to launching this survey that my teammate Kristen May is going to demonstrate for us. So please take it away, Kristen.
Yeah, thanks, Brandy. So like Brandy mentioned, we've prepared an online interactive site, and that includes both a brief survey and interactive map. So I'm going to just pull that up real quick and walk you all through it. So as you navigate the website, you'll be prompted by a pop-up, and that will give you a brief overview and guide you through the interactive portions of the site. So I'm going to click Get Started Now. And we encourage you to participate in our brief survey, which is really meant to gather qualitative data that will help inform our next steps for the project. And there's 2 specific questions that I do want to highlight in this brief survey. One being, how do you typically travel throughout the city of Milpitas? And you can select what you mainly utilize. And then the second being, please identify the top 3 challenge areas when it comes to traveling in the city of Milpitas. And I know that this is not your typical question, but you can actually rank the different options here, and it's a drag and drop feature. So you can drag and drop your top 3 options. And if you decide that you want to change them, you can always reorder it. And again, encourage you to go through that survey and then click submit when you are ready. We do also have an interactive map portion of our survey feedback that you'll be providing, and that'll actually help further inform us on the particular areas of focus, because we do want to better understand where those areas of concern are. So you can feel free to drag and drop the pin marker here. And we do suggest that the more precise you are in the areas that you pin drop, the better it will be in helping us understand those specific areas. So you can drag and drop your areas of concern. And once you drop that pin marker, you'll be prompted with an add comment. And you can follow up here. I'm just going to put test for the sake of this run through, and then you can click next. And this will ask you what specific traffic safety challenges you experience at this location, and you can select all that apply to you. This is just for this sample here, and then you can click submit. And once your input is submitted, it will be sent to and reviewed to our team, reviewed by our team before it's made publicly available. But once we review it, it'll go live and the general public can view it. So that's just a general overview of our site here. And we do encourage you to take part in our survey on the side here, as well as our interactive map, because it does lead to input for our future rounds. So with that, let me pass it off to Brandy.
That's right. Thank you so much. It really is a fun and interactive way to provide input. And we hope that you share the link with your friends and your family, neighbors, coworkers, so they too can get involved. The city is promoting the survey link on all their social media channels and their website. So please click on the post when you see them and take the survey. I don't think we have any other questions about that portion. So that does take us to our next steps. The survey is going to be open for 4 weeks, and we will probably close it down around April 15th. That way this team can take the feedback that's received from the survey and the interactive map and include it in this next phase, which is coming together and creating a safety countermeasure toolbox, which is going to come back out to the public in our next round of engagement. It will be in the form of a in-person public outreach workshop in the May timeframe. And you'll get to really kind of take a look at the toolbox that has been put together and review all of the priority locations that have been identified. So after that second round of engagement, that will lead to final comments, and then we will be putting together that citywide traffic safety plan, finalizing that, and going to city council with that. So that's really the process and next steps. And if there aren't any more questions we can answer tonight, we have our final slide that just really advocates for you to click on that link or scan that QR code that will take you right to the survey, so you can also give your thoughts. All right, I think that does it for us this evening. We are posting this again at the City of Milpitas website. So please, if you again have community members that are very interested in getting engaged, point them to the city website, and they can watch this recorded meeting and see all the links to the survey. Thank you, Mr. Chan, for being here tonight. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Kristen. Well done. Be safe, everyone.
All right, thank you.